Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. This is going to be my first video in a new series I'm starting called History through KSP, and I'm really excited about it. I might ramble a little bit and get off track. Yeah, my ADHD can get bad, but I'm going to try and keep these short and sweet because I know everyone's attentions are short. And my sources for these videos and series will be through Wikipedia. I know, your teachers told you never to trust the source, but they are actually a really good source, and I check the sources that they list at the bottom to make sure they haven't been altered or edited and that they are actually true. So be careful about Wikipedia. Alright, so what's my video about today? It's about the V-2 rocket, or Vengeance 2, created by Germany in the 1930s and 40s. There will be a photo up in the screen right now for the original, what it looked like back then. It's a really cool rocket, and it really got me interested in space and everything. It's the second Vengeance weapon. Obviously I'm going to backtrack a little bit and do the V1 at a different date. It's a little bit harder to make in Kerbal, but this is the second Vengeance weapon. It's the first long-range guided ballistic missile ever in recorded history, and had the highest ever achieved altitude in World War II, which is quite phenomenal at like 110 miles. It was fueled by ethanol mixed with water, a 75-25 ratio, and they did this specifically to reduce the thermal stress, and I found that very interesting. It's got this really cool distinct white and black coloring, which you may have already seen. I'm going to throw a photo up so you can see it also. I think it's a really awesome color scheme, and it was used to help camouflage the rockets while they moved them. It was either vertical or ramped launch depending on the target and the range. For super long range, they did a ramped launch to help increase the distance. It was developed by the godfather of rockets, Werner von Braun, and his peer Walter Riedel. You've probably heard of Braun, or von Braun. He is extremely famous and was critical in the Apollo missions to the moon. It was controlled by fins and gyroscopes and used servos to control the fins at the bottom. There was 5,200 built. They were extremely expensive, and they were around or in service from 1944 to 1952. The Russians, the U.S., and United Kingdom all stole the plans and built these rockets up until 1952 and used them. The U.S. actually went on to develop their own version called the RTV G4 Bumper, which is a photo. It's almost a carbon copy of the V-2 missile. Alright, so enough talking about that. Here's mine. So what I had to change, I couldn't do servos on the bottom. The fins, I couldn't make them act like they did in the real rocket, so I left them without the fins like the actual flaps to move. The height and size are pretty comparable. The KSP world's a little bit different than Earth, but this is a simulation, so it's just for show. I'm using monopropellant tanks to demonstrate the payload and give a sense of size at the top. The guidance system is at the top as well. All the fuel and pumps were in the main body of the rocket, as our now modern rockets are as well. I used a fairing to give it this shape because with the KSP parts provided, you can't get anywhere close to the right shape of the rocket. But also I had to reduce the fuel by a ton. I'm still using liquid oxygen as the fuel, but it's not an ethanol mix, it's a methanol because of KSP, but that's fine. It's still going to be a really good comparison. Alright, let's get to the launch. And by the way, the first launch was in 1942, 2 years before they put into production because they had a lot of issues with the rocket. Alright, let's get moving. Alright, so the launch profile, it would launch pretty much straight up. Most of the time, they would give it a little bit of an angle, but it was mostly a very high apoapsis, very high arcing trajectory. The mass was 12,500 kilograms, or roughly 27,000 pounds, which is quite a bit. And then the length was only 14 meters tall, which isn't too crazy tall, but it's still 45 feet. The diameter was 1.65 meters. It had a warhead that was about 1 ton, which is huge for the time to be on a rocket. It was a long-range missile with 200 miles of range, which I mapped as to be about from Brussels, Belgium to Paris, and that was kind of what German military generals were looking for. And so this rocket fit that profile perfectly, and they can pretty much hit any target in the mainland Europe. Its max altitude was 128 miles, which is space at that point. And the long range altitude was only 55 miles because it was very low arcing, and they wanted to get as much speed horizontally. The impact speed was 1,790 miles per hour, or like Mach 2.5, which is extremely fast. It burned for 60 seconds in total, and it had 25 tons of thrust, which gave them a lot of problems. We can dive into the issues right now. Actually, was the thrust? They couldn't get the thrust high enough, and they really struggled with that. And then they had issues breaking up on reentry, which you're about to watch in this video. As the missile came back to the atmosphere, the pressure and the negative or the positive G forces put on the pressure plate of the explosive at the front would cause it to detonate early while it's coming back into the atmosphere. And so they had to readjust the firing mechanism for the warhead so that it wasn't pressure sensitive. And they also had to change a bunch of the thermal coatings on the fins because the fins were melting on the way up, and it would lose control and be way less accurate and spin out. And then the turbopumps, since all modern rockets, if you did not know, nowadays are usually pressurized tanks, and so they don't have to use extremely powerful pumps. But back when this missile was developed, that wasn't common, and so they had to design extremely powerful pumps that had insane RPMs to push the pressure, the oxidizer and the fuel into the chamber to ignite. And so those are some of the main crazy issues. And now we're coming back down to the atmosphere, and you can see this is kind of what it would actually look like. And this would be an absolutely scary sight as you watch a rocket come in, whether it be Paris or while in any battle. This is a very scary sight, and that's what the whole point of the Vengeance series was, to show the might of the German engineering industry and how effective they could be. And there you go. It's an awesome rocket, and it really got me interested in World War II. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give me feedback, like, subscribe, share my channel. I would love to go more in depth, less in depth. I've been trying to make these short and sweet, so just let me know how much longer, shorter, detailed, or less detailed I should be, because I'm totally down for altering my channel. You guys have a great one. I will talk to you guys later.